Have you ever noticed that while millions of people are screaming at their TVs, painting their faces, and feeling emotionally destroyed because 11 strangers lost a game, there is a massive group of people who just don't care? In a world that treats stadium loyalty like a secular religion, there's a demographic that remains eerily silent and completely unaffected by the score, the stakes, or the season. Your total indifference to whether a ball goes through a hoop or across a line isn't just a simple lack of interest. It is a sign that your brain is operating on a fundamentally different neurobiological frequency than 60% of the population, while the rest of society is trapped in a manufactured cycle of vicarious dopamine hits and tribal warfare. You are standing outside the arena, possessing a clarity that the sports-obsessed world simply cannot process. The truth is, your refusal to emotionally invest in millionaire athletes you've never met isn't a sign that you're boring or passionless. It is a clinical manifestation of a brain wired for direct engagement rather than spectator addiction. Today, we are dissecting the iron-clad neurobiology of the non-fan, the individual whose reward system, tribal instincts, and empathy allocation have evolved beyond the stadium. We are going to go deep into why your brain might be genetically shielded from the hype, how the sports industry utilizes the same addictive loops as slot machines, and why your missing tribal instinct is actually your greatest psychological advantage. To understand why some people are immune to sports fever, we have to look past the fun and look directly into the neurochemistry of addiction. Let's talk about the mechanism that keeps the masses hooked: intermittent reinforcement. In psychology, this is known as the most powerful and addictive reward schedule in existence, the same principle that makes gambling and slot machines so impossible to quit. You don't know if your team will win, and that precise uncertainty is what keeps the dopamine flowing through the fan's brain in constant aggressive microdoses. Every play, every possession, and every close call is a chemical gamble that triggers the reward centers of the brain, creating a literal behavioral dependency. If you don't care about sports, it's because your dopamine system simply isn't triggered by vicarious competition. You don't get a high from watching someone else succeed. According to groundbreaking research from the University of Chicago, this complete indifference might actually be written in your DNA. The study suggests that specific variations in dopamine receptor genes can predict with startling accuracy how much someone cares about competitive spectator activities. This means your boredom during the Super Bowl isn't a choice or a social statement, it's a genetic reality. A biological pass that lets you skip the addiction everyone else is fighting. But there is a darker, more ego-driven layer to this called BIRGing, or basking in reflected glory. This is the psychological mechanism where fans use the successes of a team to bolster their own fragile sense of self-worth. You've heard it 1,000 times. When the team wins, the fan says, "We won." But when the team fails, the pronoun instantly switches to "they lost." This social distancing is a tactic used to protect the ego from the reality of a life that lacks personal victories. As a non-fan, your self-concept is far more stable because it isn't tethered to the physical performance of strangers in another zip code. You don't need to borrow glory from an athlete to feel like a winner. Your self-esteem is built on the foundation of your own actions and your own reality. Now, before the sports fanatics claim this is a lack of empathy, let's look at the data on empathy allocation. Everyone has a finite amount of emotional bandwidth, and while fans are wasting theirs on the tragedy of a missed field goal, you are directing yours toward things that actually matter. A 2021 study confirmed that people with low sports interest often score significantly higher in openness to experience and a profound love for art, music, and complex ideas. Your brain is seeking the same rewards: transcendence, connection, and meaning. But you are finding them in a novel, a creative project, or a scientific discovery. You aren't missing empathy, you are just an expert at deciding where that empathy is actually deserved. For many of you, this indifference is also a sophisticated defense mechanism against the aggressive, often toxic competitiveness of sports culture. Maybe you remember the bullying of gym class, or maybe you just recoiled from the primal us versus them mentality that turns grown adults into screaming children. Your lack of interest is a quiet, radical protest against a culture that values the tribe over the individual. This brings us to the work of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi and his theory of flow states. A flow state is that moment of total absorption where time disappears and you are at your peak performance. Sports fans try to achieve a cheap version of this flow by watching others compete. It's a passive secondary experience. But you, the non-fan, achieve true flow through direct engagement in your own life's work. While the neighbor is spending 3 hours every Sunday experiencing someone else's struggle, you are engaged in your own. You are the one actually on the field of your own life, while they are paying for the privilege to sit in the stands and watch. This is what researchers call parasocial investment versus direct engagement. The sports-obsessed are building one-sided imaginary relationships with icons who don't know they exist. You, however, prefer investing your emotional energy where there is reciprocity, where your care, your work, and your presence actually change the outcome. There is something inherently more real about a person who doesn't need a scoreboard to tell them if they have had a good day. In an era of performative tribalism, your indifference to the big game is a superpower of focus. You aren't boring because you don't know the stats. You are dangerous because you aren't distracted. You aren't broken because you don't scream at the TV. You are centered because you aren't controlled by a manufactured dopamine loop. The stadium is a cage designed to keep the masses occupied with bread and circuses, just like in ancient Rome. By choosing to stay outside, you are reclaiming your time, your chemistry, and your identity. The next time someone asks you, "Did you see the game?" and looks at you like you're missing a limb, take it as a compliment. It means they've noticed you aren't part of the herd. It means they've sensed that your internal world is too rich to be satisfied by a ball and a whistle. You aren't missing the party. You're the only one who realized the party was a distraction in the first place. You are playing a different game now, one with higher stakes, deeper meaning, and a much better payout. You are focused on the only narrative that is worth your limited time, your own. If this breakdown of the fanatic mind hit home, it's because you've always known there was a reason you didn't fit in. You aren't just a non-fan, you are a realist in a world of spectators. Join us at The Last Realists, where we dissect the psychological traps the mainstream wants you to fall into. Subscribe, because the world is only going to get louder, and you're going to need a place where the noise stops. Click the next video to see why being quiet is actually the ultimate power move in a society that won't stop shouting. We'll see you in the next exploration.